Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl. Moving on to part 2 of troop types in detail in the Warhammer The Old World Rulebook. So let's take a look. As I said before, this is kind of a repeat of the section earlier in the book on troop types, but misses out a whole bunch of rules, which we now cover in this section. So the duplication, completely unwarranted. Troop types should only be in one part of the book with all the rules in one place. Otherwise, people will miss them, which is what we need to do now. So last time we did infantry and cavalry, and now we're on chariots. So like the cavalry, you have a split profile specific to chariots. So what does that say? So unless otherwise noted, any special rules that apply to one element, i.e. chariot, crew, or beasts, may apply to the other as well. The model uses the movement characteristic of the beast that draw it, or, if there is no beasts, of the chariot itself. The crew and beasts each use their own weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength, initiative, and attacks characteristics, and their own weapons. In combat, all enemy to hit rolls are made against the crew's weapon skill. Impact hits and or stomp attacks use the chariot's strength, and if the chariot is reduced to 0 wounds, you remove the model from play. Okay, so now we're on to light chariots. So light chariots do have the split profile chariot, and you can see some Tomb King's light chariots on the right hand side there. So they have models per rank of 3. There you go, so there's one complete rank. Maximum rank bonus of +1, and a unit strength per model of 3. Now they do come with 3 special rules which are specific to light chariots, which is iron shod wheels. This model treats all difficult terrain as dangerous terrain, and all linear obstacles as impassable terrain. So be mindful of that. Hedges, walls, and all those type of things are going to be impassable for your light chariots. If this model rolls a 1 when making a dangerous terrain test, it will lose D3 wounds. So definitely don't recommend taking these into dangerous terrain or difficult terrain unless absolutely necessary. So churning wheels, they can only be joined by characters who also have this rule. So you need a character on a light chariot to be able to join the unit. Now firing platform for the purpose of shooting and casting spells, this model has a 360-degree vision arc, so it can shoot all around it, which is actually really quite nice. Okay, that's light chariots. Next up are the heavy chariots. And I've put a steam tank in there. You might think, why didn't you put like a Warriors of Chaos Gore Beast chariot or a Drakespawn chariot or something like that? Well, I put the steam tank in there because it is actually a heavy chariot. That is its troop type. So, models per rank is none, maximum rank bonus is none, and a unit strength per model is 5. And that's because heavy chariots tend to be in a unit of 1, pretty much just them on their own. And a steam tank is a good example of that. Now, it does have sized wheels, which impact hits caused by a heavy chariot have AP -2. That is really nice. So charging with your heavy chariot can be really, really good. Now, they do have the lumbering rule. A lumbering model is considered to be and follows all the rules for a unit in close order formation, even when included as a single model. After moving, unless it charged, marched, or fled, it may pivot about its centre to change its facing by up to 90 degrees. That's actually quite nice. A lumbering model cannot join a unit, and it cannot be joined by a character, so they're pretty much always going to be a unit of 1, and of course they do have the split profile chariot, as we saw in the previous section. So that's chariots. Next up, we have monsters. So you got monstrous creatures, and a manticore is listed as a monstrous creature. So models per rank 0, maximum rank bonus is 0, and their unit strength per model is basically whatever their starting wounds was. Now, they have 2 special rules. You have the ridden monster, which is some characters can ride monstrous creatures, as you can see here with a Warriors of Chaos Lord riding a manticore. and they have the lumbering rules we saw previously in the heavy chariot. So follows all the rules for a unit in close order formation, and it can change its facing by 90 degrees after it's moved, unless it charged, marched, or fled. And it cannot join a unit or be joined by a character, unless it's being ridden by one. Okay, next up is a Moth. So you can see here is a Necrosphinx, one of my favourite sort of big monstrous or big kits that the Tomb Kings have. I really do quite like the Tomb Kings big kits. The War Sphinx is nice as well. Models per rank is 0, maximum rank bonus 0, and unit strength is per the starting wounds. Now, some characters can ride Behemoths, lumbering, which are the same rules before as we saw, which is the close order formation, the changing its facing. They also have another one, which is Thunder Stomp. So stomp attacks made by a Behemoth have AP -2. However, this rule cannot be used against other monsters, i.e. monstrous creatures or Behemoths, because they're too big. So, but that's pretty nice. You know, you run a big monster like this into a unit of infantry, for example, or even a unit of cavalry, and they can make their stomp attacks at AP -2, which is really, really quite nice. So Behemoths are one to watch. And finally, we have a War Machine. And, you know, to have a War Machine picture, we had to pick something really cool. And Doom Divers, they're just wicked. The whole concept. You know, yes, you can have your catapults and your bolt throwers and your cannons, but what's better than a goblin with essentially a glider on an elastic band with a spiky helmet? I think it's absolutely brilliant. So models per rank is 0, maximum rank bonus is 0, and the unit strength is per the starting wounds. Now, they have a special split profile for War Machine. So, War Machines consist of several models, the War Machine itself and the crew together making a single model. Unless otherwise noted, any special rules that apply to one element, i.e. the War Machine or the crew, apply to the other as well. In combat, use the toughness and wounds characteristic of the crew. When not in combat, use the toughness and wounds characteristic of the War Machine. That's if it's being shot at, for example. For each wound the crew loses, it suffers a -1 modifier to its attack's characteristic. And when this model makes an armor save roll, use the crew's armor value. If either the crew or the War Machine is reduced to 0 wounds, you remove the model from play. Now, it does come with 2 special rules, which is we're not paid to fight. If the crew break and flee, treat the model as having been completely destroyed and remove it from play. So it cannot break and flee from combat. It essentially is just immediately destroyed, which kind of makes sense because you can't run away with the cannon or the Doom Diver thing here, and the crew run away, then the thing's going to be destroyed, doesn't exist. So absolutely makes sense. Also, weapon of war. War Machines cannot march, they cannot declare a charge, and they cannot make a pursuit. They also suffer a -1 modifier to the result of a flee roll they make to a minimum of 1. That's kind of an interesting one. I guess, you know, there are other reasons why they might flee, as opposed to breaking and fleeing. But, you know, that's an interesting one. And then War Machines can pivot freely anytime during its turn and may make follow-up moves as normal. Pivoting does not count as having moves. So you can have your cannon at the back, and if it turns to shoot to someone in its arc, it can pivot to do so, but that doesn't count as moving for the purposes of shooting. So absolutely makes sense. And there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the troop types in detail. You can see actually why it was important to go into this, cover all these extra rules for the troop types in detail, because it's critical to how everything works. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below. And as always, if you want to see more content, please hit the subscribe button. Totally free for you to do. It means a lot for me. It takes 5 seconds to do it. It's a really big deal. I really, really do appreciate it. You've been watching The Ghost Owl, and I'll see you all very, very soon.